All right, Sanbonani Dumilang, and welcome to your #1 youth show, and that is Expressions. While in Mbugeli, President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed a cabinet and executive to accommodate the 11 parties in the Government of National Unity, also known as the GNU. Abemi ke boMzantsi Afrika Mbugeli baye baqhalabisa ngendlela abangonwabanga ngayo by not giving any party a majority ruling vote, and when there's been a lot of support for cutting rather than growing the executive. Namhlanje wena Azaria, now Mbugeli apha Expressions, we are putting a spotlight on the newly appointed cabinet. Wanambuza subuzayo apho ekhaya ngakunqiyo kuwe njengomntomtsha, what do you make of the cabinet? Mbugeli, make sure you interact with us on our social media platforms. Dimloge Okolo Sakalubisu Nonkanyezi, the brightest star in the galaxy. I'm not rolling solo, I'm with Azaria. Let's do this.
Ngibingelele babukeli lapho ekhaya. Namhlanje sikhuluma ngodaba olungundaba mlonyeni muva nje, and that's the newly elected cabinet, which has now grown to 32 members, and now Mbugeli there are 43 deputy ministers. Ke Mbugeli uma siqhathanisa namanye amazwe omhlaba, lesibalo have siphezulu kakhulu, siphezulu ngokweqile futhi. On the 29th of May, South Africans voted for jobs, and they essentially voted for change. Wena Kholoza umbuze sobuzayo namhlanje ohlelweni uthi, will the new GNU cabinet address the issues ezibhekene nabantu abasha? Ake size ukuthi abantu abasha bathini emigaqweni. Umdidiyeli wethu uMziyanda Mbedla uhlanganisele nanku mbiko.
If you can check the cabinet, they're still the same old people. And then for us youth, there is nothing for us in parliament. So I think they should find people who have fresh brains or new minds who can bring up better ideas.
It just means that we would have different opinions when it comes to the services of our people. And that's for the better of our country, instead of just having one party that will be making decisions for us.
Yeah.
So it's really a good idea for the national unity of our government.
Maybe they'll bring changes, because it's obvious whatever that they want to decide, they do as they please. There's other parties that can challenge them in terms of making decisions.
We are hoping for positive change and more job creation and unity within the residents of South Africa.
This cabinet is the true reflection of the people. And also I think there will be more accountability now, because there are different political parties. So maybe the rate of corruption will go down.
They're still having challenges, but I'm thinking like there are some youth that they've brought forward into the cabinet, then maybe there will be changes.
Like Tina see you just limas. Yes, Kawata, because one thing I end up my Uskotli Sangala 370. It's also a kupula my as also a kupula in Mara Inta Enza. Was a Kotli setting you to slow Simlandele. Abantapa Spani, Abantapa Ekel, and as far as Bakawati, I was big zone, Kelezos in Tolezo. I'm a graduate. It's been 6 months and I've been waiting and there is no job. And then if you check, there are people who are getting jobs through bribes. And then for us who went to school, what's there for us? Minister,
it's all about unity. So I think, yes, as united parties, there will be change and there will be inclusion of youth. Na abantu abadala ngoba nathi abanye much as sesidlulile u35 singavalelwa phandle. Yes, please.
Ukubetha nakwezimvo zabantu abatsha, abanye bathi noba ningatshintsha i-ministers kangaphi kuyafana. To help me dissect this conversation further in studio, we are joined by political analyst Mighty Jemmy, and of course we have the social activist Nicoline Trom. Lady and gent, welcome to Expressions. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Pleasure. Well, thank you for having us.
And I mean, Mighty, this is not the first of its kind. We understand that we've had the GNU pre-1994 reflecting on the voices of young people on the ground. I mean, any surprises on the new appointment of the new cabinet?
Well,
this particular grand coalition was expected, you know. There were some permutations and combinations which were extrapolated upon when the election was happening, but it was very clear that there was some appetite from the markets as well as from the ANC and the DA to form this grand coalition. You know, I'm a bit allergic to calling it a GNU myself because the 1994 GNU was really designed to create peace and stability amongst political parties which had rivalry, where there had been actual violence. Having said that, in any event, it was refreshing to see some big ministries being allocated to the Democratic Alliance. For instance, if you look at basic education going to Democratic Alliance, if you look at forestry and fishery, if you look also at agriculture going to Democratic Alliance, that was something positive. But when you then do another analysis, you then see Uguti, they put a DA minister with an ANC deputy minister. For instance, if you look at communications, you have Soli Molatsi being the minister, and then you have Mondli Kungubele being the deputy minister. The question that arises from that is that a genuine appointment, or is it a way to keep the Democratic Alliance appointee, you know, under supervision from that deputy ministerial position? If you look at education, for example, Siviwe Kwarube was put there, but the deputy minister is the same deputy minister who was deputy minister of basic education, and she's been long in that particular portfolio, which is to say it will be very difficult for the new minister to assert authority and direction in that particular cabinet position, considering the dynamics. But it's very early. There were some surprises. We'll have to give them benefit of the doubt, but we have to never forget what we are focused on as the public.
We need to give them benefit of the doubt to make sure that they exercise their authority. And coming to you, Nicolette, I mean, it now seems that it's clear that young people really need a presented government that will address their challenges. And what sort of impact do you hope to see within this new cabinet? And especially when you look at the policies and, I mean, their intake, I mean, what are some of the policies that you'd like to see being implemented in this new cabinet?
You know, firstly, I think let's clarify the government of national unity. There is no such thing. What we have is a multi-party coalition. So for us to hope is there's the only thing that we have as South Africans, you know, and we cannot be hoping for unity when there is no equity, when there is still inequality. So what we're hoping is to see is a bit of change in opportunities for us, especially young people. But then our hopes are actually, it's like our backs are leaned against the wall when you look at the dynamics of the multi-party coalition, that the cabinet is now bloated, you know, and when you look into our public offices, there is no budget to hire doctors, to hire teachers, you know, key positions that makes a country strive in a better position.
And with that said, Nicolene, I mean, we have ministers who are in crucial roles, and they seem to be relatively young. And my big question is, I mean, with some of the old faces and new faces that we are seeing, obviously some, they lack experience and qualifications. I mean, could this maybe dilute the efficiency of the governance that we have ministers running that don't have qualifications or experience?
Yeah, so if, for instance, if you look at Dean McPherson, if you look at John Steenhuisen, these are gentlemen who are just in possession of a pure matric. And I think when you have a pure matric, it's fair to ask questions around, do you have the necessary experience and the necessary technical, you know, theoretical knowledge? So I think we must never be afraid to ask for expertise. If you look at the advertisement for a director general for any government department, you need 5 to 10 years experience. You need a master's level or above education. Why do these things matter? Theoretically, it's important for you to go to an institution to learn the fundamental principles of the field where you're going to be practicing. Experientially, it's important for you to go into that field, to work at the fundamental baseline of delivery and then rise up through the management ranks. Why does that all matter? So that you can have an understanding of the industry that you're going to lead and the sector that you're going to lead. Minister is, a chief executive of that particular department. And when departments have got large budgets, large staffing contingents, and large challenges that they're facing, it becomes important for you to be able to hit the ground running, not to start learning what that particular ministry is about on day one. Those opportunities were there at university. They were there for some of these people. They did matric in 1994. So they've been, absent without leave from learning for the last 30 years. I don't think that we can give anybody a pass. Those questions are very fair.
Yeah.
Also, I think it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have.
The political
If you do not have the willingness to serve and be patriotic, we don't have patriotic leaders in Parliament even this day. All we see is that this bloated cabinet. But is it for the will of the people? Is it there to serve a better purpose than what we had seen for the past 30 years? And when we look at the past 30 years, we've been given tangible evidence that we are not people to govern. And that's what hurts to us as young people, that we know that we do have the willingness. And yet you look at our governing party, it's not equipping young leaders. It has not even put them in your ministerial positions, or they could have at least tried to put them in even as deputy ministers, or to shadow them. But because they are not willing to pass the baton, that's why they not even reconsider them for any positions. What we have in Parliament is people positioning themselves for power, and that's it, and a thicker pocket.
It's basically, you being politically connected instead of the skills and the political will that you have, which brings me to my next question, because what we are seeing all these ministers, polluting this cabinet, and I want to understand, do they really possess the energy and the skills to get the job done? Because on the ground, young people have been waiting for far too long for promises. Do they really have the will to get the job done? And how much are we giving them?
As I'm saying, there is no willpower. It is just loyalty to the organizations. Right now, what we see is the rivalry of organizations who can lead better, even in this coalition, and we had seen with the collapse of our municipalities in the coalition, where the coalition is concerned, they failed dismally. So how much more in a national level? It just goes to show that we are on our own as citizens. We need to have a pragmatic approach as to how are we going to survive in this 5 years. But all I see is that disaster is coming.
Yeah. And just going back to what you said, Mighty Jamie, like if you look at economic advanced countries like United States, you'd see that how they select their ministers is through suitable qualification and experience. And looking at our cabinet, some of them, they are inexperienced and they lack skills, as you said. I want to understand, Uguti, how much time, what's the time frame, how much are we giving them to make sure that they deliver to their promises and they save the youth of South Africa?
Well, I think, Uguti, we can compare with other countries, right? The United Kingdom had an election last week, Thursday. Their prime minister was appointed on Friday. Their minister of foreign relations already has started working. And today, their minister of finance made announcements around critical elements of how the budget will be done. Already other ministers today. So this is from Friday. In the job on Friday, today they are already working at this time of recording, which is Monday, right? So there's a 3-day turnaround there. So if we're saying we're part of the G20, we're part of this group of nations, we're at that level, or we want to be at that level, it's important for us to measure all of the ministers on a serious timetable, because some of the problems are overdue. The crime is overdue. Nobody who is living in a dangerous neighborhood has got 6 months to wait for a minister to learn, to understand, to get to work. Nobody who is waiting for funding for their small business has another 6 months to wait, right? Because if you're saying you want to create jobs, create safe neighborhoods, create functional hospitals, clinics, etc., we need to see movement from day one.
Yeah.
So even though there's a honeymoon, we were giving them benefit of the doubt. They are already over time.
And those are pressing issues of young people. I mean, they can't be waiting for a long time because issues like crime, the high rate of unemployment, they are waiting on the door for young people. Be sure to be part of this discussion on our social medias. And our lines are open. For now, you are watching Expressions.
In the East Rand, it's Akane, Pansi, Khomashashane, Elimpopo. Welcome. This is Expressions right here on SABC 1. Uma ngabe usandungena mbukeli namuhla sikhuluma about the newly elected cabinet. Siyabuza futhi kuwe lapha ekhaya ukuthi ngabe ucabanga ukuthi ominister bethu abaqokiwe abasha are they going to work to solve inkinga zabantu abasha lapha kwelengabathi. Joining me right now is Ulungelo. Ulungelo, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. So Putami namhla sikhuluma about the newly elected cabinet. You know, a lot of people have been saying that it's bloated because Minister Betu Badning, I mean, we have like 43 deputy ministers, you know. Can you just tell me, do you think, when you're looking at this cabinet, do you think it's going to work for Abantu Basha Palapennings in Africa?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. I best believe that with regards to it being bloated, it was for a specific reason. What is the reason? The reason is to accommodate other 11 elected candidates within the GNU, the Government of National Unity, right? So therefore, for the past 8 years in the democratic state that we're in as a country, we have been led by one country. So this allows for more perspective, more solutions, more ideas, and this will enhance the responsiveness of the entire governance of the country. So it's going to be more beneficial when we have more people. And when it's well balanced, there won't be even more conflict within. When I did my research, I saw that, okay, if they're increasing it, it's to accommodate and more perspective and more, you know, how can I put this? It's just having more people there that are going to provide the better solutions than the leading country.
And probably now there's going to be more accountability now because we don't just have one party, there's multiple parties as well.
True. Yeah. Segregation of duties also, you understand? You look at that, it's no longer only the leading party that's going to do it, but the accountability amongst all parties. So the blame won't be shifted to one party, but the blame will also be shifted amongst other relevant parties that are included in the GNU.
Yeah. All right, before we went to an ad break, Kolosa had a very insightful discussion on the other side. They were talking about, you know, the selection criteria when it comes to selecting all Minister Betu. Right now, for example, Umam Enjimutsecha, you know, was the Minister of Basic Education, and she's been migrated now to Defense and Military, you know, and then she's also deputized by Ubabu Uholomisa. We know that Uholomisa joined, you know, the Defense Force back in the 1976, and in the 90s, he was already Uprikadia. But now when you're comparing the two people, don't you think probably the other one has more relevant experience to hold the position?
Oh, wow. That's very nice.
Yeah.
What I would say on my side is that let's give Mama NG a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, she hasn't spent even 6 months in this journey, and she can learn a lot from that. And I best believe that people would prefer that the second person to be the one who's leading, right? But with her, she's not leading it alone. She's got experience. She's got someone, her second in command, who's got experience in this role, you understand? So I best believe in it, not even limited to Mama NG, but all other people who've been given roles. Like the new Minister of Education is going to bring in new mind and new... So it's irrelevant for me to base an opinion right now. It's going to be better if I base an opinion 6 months from now. That's going to be enough for me to see, has there been progress over Mam Inge's side? Then only then we can say that she's not good for the job, she's good for the job. Thank you.
All right, now also, you know, when we're looking at this bloated cabinet, so people say, Uguti, it is bloated. There are benefits that come with being an MP, with being part of parliament, or with being a minister. You know, you get your VIP protection, you get security upgrades at your house, and traveling costs are all at the expenses of the taxpayers. Now, do you think it's probably a wise decision, Uguti, looking at the economic state of our country, Uguti cabinet instead of it being chopped down?
Interesting question. You know, right now I won't have a really solid opinion because I haven't done more research on that side, right? But I'm just going to go back to the point that I made earlier, that let's just give it time and see, you know, the positive impacts and the negative impacts that it's going to make. I mean, for every advantage, there must be a disadvantage.
Yes.
For every disadvantage, there must be an advantage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, beautiful. Ake mbukeli onendlebe uzwile sikhuluma ngayo i-GNU khona la ku-Expressions on SABC1. For now, ake sithi qu ey'tolo unganyakazi siyabuya.
Welcome back and we're getting
Didn't say how much I shot.
Youth Show right here on SABC1. We are still furthering the conversation with political analyst Maichi Jamie and social activist Nicolene Trom. As we wrap up this discussion, I mean, earlier on we were talking about, how unfair it is that we have the likes of Angie Motshekga in the defense ministry. And I mean, this is one topic, when Nicolene, that you are truly passionate about. I mean, what should we do as young people to ensure that we hold them accountable for every move they make? How do we make sure that we hold them accountable to contribute to the success of this new cabinet?
It might seem as if whenever we make noise to deaf ears. I think what young people need to do is to press on and being hands-on, with the current affairs of the country, whether being it political, social, economical, spiritual, but young people need to take part in understanding what's going on. Young people need to know who they are. They need to know thyself, need to know thy enemy, and need to know thy environment. And once they know that, then they'll be able to hold those that are in power accountable. They need to have zero tolerance for any leader operating outside of Ubuntu, especially right now.
Yeah, knowing yourself is the beginning of wisdom. Mighty James, in closing, I mean, what message would you like to convey? I believe they are watching, the new ministers, because it's time for action now.
Exactly. And I think what's going to be important, for example, in a cabinet position such as Minister of Basic Education, I think the ministers must actually start talking to practitioners. So have a mass meeting, a town hall with the teachers, have a mass meeting with school management, have a mass meeting with principals, and speak to all of those people. Because if you're not going to the ground where your service is being executed, you can never improve your service. If you look in corporate, global corporate, whether it's Global South Africa or whatever, you'll find that CEOs often go to the ground to see injani lesitolo sami on the ground level. So if ministers don't do that, I don't think we can take them seriously.
And that's exactly what we do as Expressions. We go to the ground to young people and make sure that we amplify their voices. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. That's all we have for you, Mbukeli Expressions. Thank you so much for joining us. Izaria, what an insightful conversation.
Insightful show, insightful. Utapside is standing by. Bye-bye.
Livutela wena uthando luyavuta livutela wena ngitayithatela wena ngitayithatela wena ngitayithatela wena oh ngitayithatela wena wanswara mo wantlisa mo wanswarisa dipelo wampontsha lirato wampontsha lifatsi ngizoyikhipha zonke inkomo zikababa ngizoyikhipha zonke inkomo zikababa lerato lekhulu lerato lekhulu lerato lekhulu lerato lekhulu uthando luyavuta livutela wena uthando luyavuta livutela wena ngitayithatela wena ngitayithatela wena ngitayithatela wena oh ngitayithatela wena uma ngasuka kuwe dali